I need to make this video a little bit shorter today because I got a lot going on. But today we are talking about some books that are written by Anne Rice. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard of Anne Rice. She's a very popular author, and a lot of people that I've spoken to about her books, they really like, all of her books, really. She seems to have specialized predominantly in vampire romance oriented novels and whatnot. And I tried reading a little bit of those when I was in high school, things like that. And I really, especially at the time, couldn't get into them. I might revisit them at a later date or something like that. But last decade or so, the 2010s era, if you will, I discovered a series that she wrote, and it's actually geared more towards like the werewolf side of things. And I read the first one, and it's called The Wolf Gift, and it's actually a very fascinating book, I thought. It doesn't exactly follow the same rules that a lot of stereotypical werewolf movies and books follow. There's honestly quite a bit of a lack of rules, if you will. Basically, you find this character named Reuben, and he's a reporter of sorts that writes articles for a paper or a news agency, something of that nature. And he's on his way to a mansion that he's been in love with for pretty much his entire life, and he's finally getting to be the one that gets to write a report on it. And he's going to go speak to the current owner of the property. And while he's there, things kind of bloom between them, if you will, but it doesn't exactly last long because something terrible happens when night comes around, and some people break into the house and end up killing the woman that owns uh, the property, Marchant, I believe her name was. And Reuben gets caught in the middle of it and gravely injured. But at the same time, some creature has infiltrated this mansion and has made quick work of the people that broke in and accidentally bites Reuben in the process, mistaking him to be one of the intruders, but quickly drops him when it realized its mistake. And so he ends up in the hospital and is dealing with the ramifications of that night and is eventually released, but he's also starting to notice certain changes in his body, like growth spurts and how quickly he is healed from his stab wounds and all of that. And at some point or another, things finally start changing, and you finally get like a nighttime adventure of him with his new abilities and whatnot. Um, so some key differences being, he can literally turn into this form whenever he wants to. Just it has a side effect of leaving him almost deathly tired after it's said and done with, once he's like done doing what he's doing and he reverts back to his human form. And one key unique thing about this particular situation is that he seems to have this ability to smell people that are bad or evil or have evil intentions. And the instinct of what he is driven to deal with these individuals, if you catch my drift. And it describes a lot of gory scenes of what he does to these people, and of course it catches the attention of the human people, and they're all speculating as to what this creature actually is that's doing all these things. And Ruben's just trying to figure himself out and maintain his job while also um, another key thing is Marchant basically left him the mansion in her will pretty much the same night that they were together. So he's going up to this property and he's making discoveries there. And as it turns out, Marchant's ancestors and some friends of his were friends of Marchant's ancestors, that is, are heavily involved in some mysterious storyline that goes on in here, and he discovers these secret passageways and secret rooms inside of the mansion. And it kind of like just snowballs from there. It has a lot of twists and turns. There's a couple of different storylines taking place at the same time in this book. And by the end of it, there's like a big conflict with some scientists that have a good deal of awareness of who and what Reuben is, and because they've had dealings with his kind before. And, most of them not too great. But I won't spoil anything in that part of the story. Um, but at the very end of the story, you finally get this massive reveal as to where exactly his kind originated from. And it's a very interesting evolutionary story that literally dates back to the very beginning of human time. And it's just a fascinating read through and through. It kept me interested and engaged throughout the whole read. And you know what? Ruben actually finds a second love interest in this book by the end of it, and it just seems like it's actually going to work out by the end of the book. So yeah, that's the Wolf Gift, and I hope you guys purchase it and enjoy it just like I did. The second book is called The Wolves of Midwinter, also written by Anne Rice, and you wouldn't immediately know that it was a sequel to The Wolf Gift, um, just by looking at it. You'd have to like research it just to know for sure. But, we're back in Mendocino, which is where the mansion is located, and Ruben has finally come to terms with, who and what he is, and he's figuring out how he's going to go forward from there. And he's grappling with these new obstacles and adventures that come with his life and being immortal now, and with these new friends that he has, friends and family. They are preparing for the Christmas holidays in this book, but they go by different names as far as what the actual holidays were called in certain cultures back in the day. And you're introduced to another faction of people, or beings, if you will, known as the Forest Gentry. And basically, what they are ghosts who decided not to move on for whatever their reasons may be. I believe one of them was, just simply not knowing what comes after death, and they were not exactly content with finding out what that answer was. So they stayed behind, and they actually developed the ability to solidify their bodies, if you will, so they can physically interact with our world and the things that are in it and be seen by people. But obviously, they don't actually have real flesh and blood bodies. But that's pretty much how they go. And you're starting to get introduced to more groups of these werewolves that come into the play, and there's a big conflict with them as far as who has their kind's best interest at heart for the long run, the self-preservation of their species and the like. And by the end of it, this book, in my honest opinion, drug out. For it to be physically shorter than the first book, I feel like it drug out a little bit more than the first book did, because that book kept me engaged the whole time. It was fascinating. Whereas this one kind of takes its time a little bit more. And by the end of it, the problem is solved in a very grotesque way. And it was really dark, is what it was, but it was kind of interesting. But at the very end, I kind of left me wondering, like, with one character in particular that's not a part of our main group, like, is his intentions as true as he made them sound? Are things really over? Is he really made peace with what has taken place? And is he going to join our main group of people here? Or like, where exactly is his mind on all this? Because he really did lose a lot by the end of this book. And, so does Ruben in a way, because he's at some point going to have to deal with the fact that, those of his family that don't get turned into what he is are going to die, and he's going to have to live eternity pretty much without them. And he's going to have to figure out how to, grapple with that and go from there. But all in all, it's a very interesting series, and I highly recommend if you're interested in that sort of genre. And it really just gets you thinking. I like books that really make you think about things, and like, your place in the world, where are you going from here, and so on and so forth. But that's all that I have for today, and I hope everyone has a great day.